The Solana price is currently in decline over fears of an upcoming token unlock. We want to take a look at this today. We want to take a look at the long-term targets over several cycles for Solana. We want to compare it to Ethereum, and we want to do a deep dive into the chart and the possible reasons for the current sell-off. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another MCO Global video. My name is Ben, and on this channel we take a look at price charts from an Elliott Wave point of view. The video here today is focused on the longer time frame. We also want to take a look at targets for this cycle, but more importantly, because we are probably getting close to the end of the cycle, we also want to take a look at how this chart could develop long term. I want to compare it with Ethereum, and we want to take a look at the upcoming token unlock to see how it could actually affect the market. Because often people believe that those unlocks have a, let's say, bearish effect. And yeah, to a degree that's the case. And I want to show you what I believe is going to happen and how this token unlock could really, shape market sentiment. Because eventually prices are made through sentiment. Like, it's all about the concepts of fear and greed. People make buy and sell decisions based on these two basic emotions. And those are exactly the emotions that we measure with our Elliott Wave method. But before we dive into the price charts, let's take a look at this concept of a token unlock, which is coming. And I'm here on the Messari page. This just shows you that around $2 billion, it shows around 11 million SOL tokens coins are going to enter circulation in March. Overall, I think it's overall across all of them that are coming out in the next 3 months, it's around 15 million Solana coins. So you find conflicting information on different websites. So I think it's around 15 million SOL coins, certainly above $2 billion worth of SOL coins. And that is quite a lot. That is one of the largest unlocks that ever happened on the Solana blockchain or in this ecosystem. So this certainly has an effect, and it's everywhere. You hear people talk about it. People are concerned. So this is something that's coming up in March. Already, I believe in February it's starting. Then we've got in March a huge unlock early in March, and then in April it continues. I mean, every month you've got some unlocks, but they are typically quite small. So I want to take a look at this article here that was written here or published on fxstreet.com, because they talk about an upcoming $3 billion token unlock. I mean, you find conflicting information. So what they say here is that the unlocks combined will constitute Solana's largest supply injection since its launch. Starting this month, so we talk about February, the crypto market will experience unlocks of 15.7 million Solana, worth approximately 3 billion for the next 3 months. Now in February alone, over 3 million SOL will be injected, and then it continues. And I think in March is going to be the massive amount. It's going to be a massive amount. Now this is something that is coming up that creates a lot of uncertainty in the markets. I will talk about that in a minute, but there are also some other news that are currently circulating around Solana. While crypto community members continue discussing the potential effect of unlocks, Solana ETF filings are seeing progress. Now that's long-term, obviously something positive that could be positive really long-term for Solana. And I strongly believe that Solana could be one of the long-term positive charts or long-term charts that develops positively together with Bitcoin. We'll talk about that a little more when we actually talk about the price charts. But that could certainly be a fundamental reason, because Solana could become one of these potential portfolio assets like Bitcoin, less so, however. Bitcoin for me still has a very, very unique stance. And Ethereum, you can see that Ethereum isn't really performing in this cycle. So a chart that looks good, in 1 month or in 1 year, in one cycle, could look quite bad in the following. It's just something to be aware of. But the SEC has acknowledged filings for Solana spot ETFs submitted by 21 Shares, Bitwise, Grayscale, and VanEck. This sets a positive tone for the possibility of a Solana ETF approval later in the year. So that could be, if you're looking for a positive catalyst going forward, this is obviously something positive that could be coming around later in the year. Also, Bloomberg analysts Eric Balchunas and James Seyfarth also predicted a 70% chance for a Solana ETF approval in 2025. It's just something to look forward to later in the year. And once all this stuff around token unlocks is gone, this is probably going to be the next big thing people are going to talk about. Now, here as well, you can actually see here on this on the Cointelegraph website, you can see the schedule, Solana token unlock schedule in 2025. Source is X apparently for them. So it's just something that you might not have seen before. It shows though that over 15 million SOL tokens will enter the circulating supply. And you can see it here, February, around about 3 million tokens, 9.7 million in March. That's the huge bar that I showed you on the first chart, and then 2.7 in April. But then on a positive note, and this is something we need to keep in mind, this year is obviously big, all right? So if you see that 2025, I can actually zoom in, 2025 is big in terms of unlocks. There's another massive one coming up in December, but then if you look going forward, they are rather small, at least compared to what happened in 2024, where you had a few above 1 million and one was 2 million. 2025 is obviously massive, but after April, it's going down, it's shrinking. And then 2026 is less, and 2027 even less, okay? So if we talk about long term, that could be something interesting because you don't get all these unlocks and it will be less supply coming onto the market. So there will be less supply overall. And obviously these ETFs could take some supply from the market as well, could reduce supply. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's take a look at the charts, but I also want to discuss before we really do a deep dive into the long-term chart. Obviously there's some concern around the unlocks, okay? And you see it everywhere. People are starting to panic when these topics are being discussed everywhere and when things like these are coming around. Now, people then say, well, as an Elliott Wave analyst, you don't really consider this, right? Well, that's true. Purely from an Elliott Wave point of view, I don't really care what is moving the markets. I treat the charts as something that is produced based on market sentiment, okay? And we are currently in a correction anyway. I mean, that's clear to anybody who sees the chart. I mean, you see it here on the chart. We're currently in a correction. And so, I mean, we are in a downtrend. Yeah, we can recognize that clearly based on Elliott Wave, based on the chart, based on trend parameters. Now, it is quite clear to everybody who's looking at the chart that we've been in a downtrend from the January 2025 high. So the question is, do I really care about what's causing that? Probably not. From a trading point of view, I don't care. I've got my risk management levels. I know that it's made by market sentiment. I know that if the analysis is correct, and if you know our charts from the Morecryptoonline channel where I cover Solana on a short-term basis every single day, the idea is we are probably in a wave 4 correction. And in this is a wave 4 in a diagonal pattern. We know that in a diagonal pattern, pullbacks can be deep. So it's nothing unusual happening here right now. However, people are obviously looking for a reason why that's happening. Now, yes, you could say that these unlocks, they certainly don't have a directly bullish effect. Why? Because obviously you get a lot of tokens thrown onto the market. So a lot of supply is hitting the market, a demand that's probably not massively changing, right? So it could have a short-term downward pressure effect on the market. So how does that fit together with Elliott Wave? Well, see, if we are in a diagonal pattern, which we are, so let's talk a little bit about the chart. So the current thesis is that a larger degree fourth wave bottomed in August. Now, there was already a massive correction. And we're now in this fifth wave. At least this is my preferred interpretation. In a fifth wave, we have 5 waves. And we completed already waves 1, 2, 3. We're now in the 4th wave. And then there could be a 5th wave around the corner. Now, before I assumed maybe the 4th wave here already bottomed, but it clearly hasn't bottomed. From a medium-term, long-term point of view, that doesn't change anything. So we've obviously formed a slightly lower low today, and the market sees some downward pressure. It could be the case, for example, that this unlock, which certainly will have a fundamental impact on the market, that it does impact prices right now, and it leads to some distortions of the short-term patterns. But this is exactly what the chart is showing us, right? The chart is showing me that there is some downward pressure because if you know our chart from the short-term outlook, Morecryptoonline channel, then you know that a micro support level on the 30-minute chart broke. That is nothing substantial, okay? But it means that, okay, there is more downward pressure than it should normally be the case in this pattern. So that's a warning, okay? That's a warning that Solana is experiencing some downside pressure. However, it doesn't mean we have to crash. It just means there is something that's distorting the patterns right now. And clearly the unlock doesn't really have an effect right now because those tokens haven't been thrown onto the market yet. So what is it? Markets are forward-looking. That's a general principle of financial markets, like behavioral finance, if you're familiar with that. Markets are always forward-looking. That is also one of the reasons why, for example, in the Second World War, the S&P 500 already recovered in 1942. It started to recover then. It's not that after the war was won, the market recovered. It started in between. It started in the middle of the war, right? So markets, just one example. Markets are always forward-looking, right? And another example is 9/11, where the 9/11 event, and it was a tragic event, but the 9/11 event was the catalyst for the S&P 500 to recover. If you look at the chart, I haven't prepared it, you'll see that it was that one shock moment that led to a last flush, and then the market recovered. The token unlock is planned. It's being priced in. So the idea is, my thesis is currently sellers who are familiar with this, they are selling their tokens right now. They've already taken profits, right? In anticipation of this unlock. That's the idea. They've taken profits, they are selling, right? There is, you could say, fear. It's driven by fear and greed. These are the two emotions that create buy and sell orders, essentially. So you only make a decision based on fear and greed. That's just typically how it works. There are no other emotions. Of course, you can, okay, you know, what else is related to fear, but these are the two basic emotions. So there is fear, and that's triggered by something. That could be the news event, some other stuff. The entire crypto market looks a little bit messy at the moment. So it's overall, we are in this sentiment pattern, right? Okay, so these people are selling, whether it's institutions or retail, and they are now on the watch for those tokens to come onto the market cheaper, and they are ready to buy back. Okay, this is often why these events, we talk about buy the rumor, sell the news. It's obviously the other way around, but you see a sell-off in anticipation of an event, which could then trigger a last flush before we see recovery. Now, people have asked me, how do these events, how can we consider these in the analysis? Well, first of all, we know we are in a diagonal. It's not an impulse. So in a diagonal, you sometimes get deep pullbacks. A wave 4 can technically go down all the way to the low of the wave 2 at around $118, $119. Now it shouldn't. That is a bit too deep for a wave 4. It's deeper than the 61.8 retracement. Normally, we wouldn't want a wave 4 to go below that level, but it can happen. It can happen. And when we have a strong event like that, it could lead to a final flush briefly below that level, a wick below, and then a recovery. So weekends get shaken out, okay, and then we see that recovery. Can I guarantee this? No, but it is typically how markets work, where you see that final flush. I mean, that correction is already unfolding. It started already in January. We are in a correction that started roughly 4 weeks ago, right? So it's not that suddenly everybody starts to sell when these tokens are coming onto the market. It might have it might distort the pattern a little bit, right? But it doesn't necessarily have a long-term effect. Rather, what we've seen is when this event is over, people are forward looking. Oh, there are not many unlocks coming anymore. Why isn't that positive? So that could lead to rising prices. Just my thoughts around this. This is obviously typically how it is, typical market mechanism. You see it when we talk about, positive events as well. There could be an event, a conference somewhere, people are pushing prices, and then when that event happens, it's being sold off, right? That's buy the rumor, sell the news. Here you could say people are selling into the fear, and then the market could just create a final flush, and then we get this recovery, and people might then, most people retail, we always know 80 to 90% of traders are typically wrong. The market is typically going into the opposite direction of what the mass believes. So when then everybody starts to panic sell, when there is a final flush, well, that's when the market can recover. No, okay? So that's why I typically say you don't normally want to be in a position to panic sell. You want to make decisions like taking profits when the risk is high, which is typically when we're far away from support, and you want to accumulate when we are close to support, or when you see a first reversal signal. So that's just from a sentiment point of view. And I believe, the upcoming ETF, news, not filings, the approval hopefully, plus obviously the positive news that, okay, there won't be too many more unlocks, or yeah, there will be, but not in that magnitude. That could have a positive effect on sentiment going forward. Now, and then what I would like to say is, if we were currently in an impulse, let's say we'd be in a third wave rally as we were in October 2023, those unlocks people maybe wouldn't even care about, or they might just create some short-term noise like this, because in a period of the market where there is really strong demand, which is the case in a third wave rally, a lot of FOMO, I mean, those tokens would just be eaten up, right? In a diagonal, the sentiment is naturally more fragile, right? And this is what I've been saying all along. Diagonals are less clear, they break more easily. Maybe the market will hit support again and need to reattempt the rally. And it's just not that one side is not clearly winning. And I also told you in previous updates that maybe the top is already in for this cycle, but I don't believe it yet, right? It will depend on the next rally. If that rally is corrective, we can talk about that, but there should still be some kind of a bounce, I believe, okay? So this is just when we talk about token unlock and so on, what effect could it have? Because people are getting worried, panicking. I mean, just looking at indicators, we're very close to being oversold. That's pretty good. Yeah, last time the market was oversold, that was here in December. And whoops, 1 second. That was in December. And I'm talking about the RSI on the daily. And the market was in a similar region on the RSI. And it recovered. Okay, there was a bullish divergence. Everything textbook. And then we had a nice recovery. And that was from $170 to $290. Okay, so that's pretty decent. So even if it's just a corrective rally, it could be something decent. Guaranteed? No, the trend is still down, right? So I wouldn't assume that this is going to happen until we actually see a reaction. But yeah, this is how the market typically works. Now, talking about the long-term outlook, that's what I promised. That's what a lot of people are interested in. Really, on a long-term chart, I believe this is one of the best looking charts we've got. That doesn't mean it's now the best time to enter for huge long-term positions, because I believe we are quite close to a cycle top. However, obviously, from a short-term trading point of view, I just showed you we are entering a support area. Nevertheless, that's related to trading. I just want to explain to you the chart overall. And we have had an initial 5-wave rally. Now, from an Elliott Wave point of view, we're always looking for these 5-wave rallies. That was positive, a first proper impulse into the 2021 highs. Then we had a corrective pullback into the 2023 lows, or 2022, 2023, where the market bottomed around $8. And then here we're now in the process of forming another 5th wave to the upside, or 5-wave move actually. And from an Elliott Wave point of view, so it's an impulse, right? And if you're not familiar with how impulses work, I have recently uploaded a tutorial about impulses. So you find that here on this channel. So you could watch that if you want to learn Elliott Wave. There will be more tutorials in the next few weeks. But the idea is we could be in this larger degree 3rd wave rally now. And this is long-term quite positive. So the question is, where could that take us? If we say we had a wave 2 low here, we can actually, based on this information, waves 1 and 2, we can measure a target for a 3rd wave. Normally we say long-term, a 3rd wave should take the price to the 138% extension. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, this shows 42,000. From a math, this is, and don't think I'm crazy, and I'm not talking about timelines, but I promised you really, based on this pattern, which is just at the moment a mathematical pattern on the chart, and it's not a crystal ball, the price in circle 3, long term, could reach 42,000. Now, people said about Bitcoin in the beginning also that it could never reach the prices it's at now. So it's the same pattern. It would follow a very similar pattern, okay? Now, do I say this has to happen? No, because it's an altcoin, and it's not really, in my opinion, an asset that has really proven itself long term, like Bitcoin has. Okay, bit more than 10 years. Is this really long term? No, but it's the best we've got, right? So you could still say it's kind of risky, but overall, Solana still has to prove itself, and it can do that in the next large correction, which could be used as a setup for the 3rd wave of a 3rd wave. So this 3rd wave of the 3rd wave, it could be in this entire cycle that we're tracking here the most aggressive rally. Why? Because the 3rd wave is typically the most aggressive one anyway, but here we talk about the 3rd wave in the larger degree 3rd wave. This is the main part of the trend. it's essentially what you want to be involved in. Now, that's not me telling you have to do that. It's obviously no crystal ball prediction here, but if the market can form a higher low, this would be the setup we're looking for from an Elliott Wave point of view. And then what we often say is third wave of a third wave tends to reach the 100% extension as a reasonable target. Here we talk about $4,000. Reasonable target for the next cycle? Maybe, yeah? So you have some, just at the moment, some moving targets, some nominal targets, but something to watch for, right? So that you get an idea of where things might be going long term. It's not possible to say how long this takes, but it would probably be the next bull market here. At least something to watch for, then a fourth wave correction, then this fifth wave, which can take us maybe even in the bull run afterwards. Yeah. So we talk really about maybe a decade or something or longer to the fifth wave. And then we know that many altcoins never recover in the next bull market, right? So whether Solana will do that depends on whether it can hold a higher low in the next correction, in the next large correction, and then start this third wave. That relates to sentiment. Again, we had also in the .com bubble back then, there were many stocks that formed 5 waves up and they never recovered afterwards. That's just, it's still a young asset, so it hasn't really proven itself. This needs to be taken with a grain of salt, but this gives you, at the moment at least, not a prediction, but long-term mathematical projections. We can refine these even further once we know where this wave 2 forms a low. We can do that when, but only at the end of the next correction. And we can do that a little bit, or we can project that once we have a confirmed top in place in this rally that started 2022. So, but where could things be going in the next correction? I mean, for now, and I mentioned that in recent videos, so the assumption is we could get one more rally into the region between 360 to 380 in this cycle from there, and we will observe that very closely. Obviously, it depends on a few things, like market needs to turn around, ideally after the unlock, maybe even before that, in anticipation. So what we want to see is that one more rally, ideally. 360 to 380 is my next target. We have to take it level by level with these altcoins, and then the next larger correction is around the corner. I believe we're already in a risk area, and when this larger correction starts, we can say where it likely will finish. I'd say there's a good chance it gets down into the region around $50, but we can project that even more precisely once we have a confirmed top. And then when we define a support area here and the price reaches it, we can watch for a possible reaction. So this gives a really, really good positive outlook on Solana, I think chart-based, and it depends on whether, and this is the stress test, the next large correction will be the stress test for Solana, for the bulls. And because this is likely around the corner, we are already in a risk area. Now, again, I still expect one more high, but the main part of this entire rally is done, right? Let's say the high probability element of the entire rally in this cycle is done. I still would like to see that one more high. Now let's also take a look, and that is what I wanted to show you at the end, the Solana Ethereum chart. Now, these crypto charts, they are not too clear. And there are a few different ways how this can be interpreted. There is a way to call this a 5-wave move up in the making, which might have already topped. But overall, we're printing still higher highs, higher lows. The structure is just a little bit ambiguous here on the Solana ETH chart. But it shows that the entire cycle, Solana has outperformed Ethereum, and that I can count a 5-wave move up. Which means, just purely based on this, token versus token, in the next correction, also here, Solana ETH should follow a 3-wave move down. So we call the wave move up a wave 1. The move down would be a wave 2. This could mean that long term, Solana has started to outperform Ethereum. This is, of course, a speculative Solana Ethereum chart. Again, something that needs to prove itself in the next correction. But based on the 5-wave move up that we see right now, we could have the thesis, or make the thesis, or work on the basis of this assumption that the next correction should form a higher low. Again, if it does, and we need to pay attention to that pullback then, and there will be a period where Ethereum will outperform Solana, possibly in the next large correction. Yeah. Again, this is good insight. So it could very well be that once we get a correction here, this is maybe when Solana will start the wave 2. maybe in this period, Ethereum will outperform. See what I mean? So, and then, however, once we then start the next rally, it is when Solana will outperform Ethereum. Could it overtake Ethereum? Maybe. Let me know in the comments what you think. But obviously, and that's something I wanted to mention as well, Solana is struggling at the moment a little bit, which might contribute to the current kind of short-term sell-off, the whole issue around meme coins. So it has really become a bit of a meme coin, you could say casino maybe, people have called it. And because all these meme coins are being launched on the Solana blockchain at the moment. And it's never been easier, apparently. So it is something that, I'm not sure if they want to have that reputation, but people get angry, kind of frustrated. Now, people getting angry and frustrated is exactly creating insecurity, right? Creating uncertainty. Second, is exactly what this current type of a correction is meant to do. It's a wave 4. It frustrates people, right? It doesn't necessarily scare people that much. Yes, there is fear and greed, but it frustrates people, right? It really frustrates people. It makes people a bit insecure. And that's typically what happens in these fourth waves. So yeah, overall, that should give you a really good idea of where Solana could be heading long term. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about Solana. Yeah, also long term. Do you agree? Do you disagree? We can have a discussion in the comments section. That's fine. I'm not telling you that this is a crystal ball prediction. It's not. It's simply a mathematical projection based on probabilities. And this can easily fail in the altcoin sector. Altcoin charts are, you could say, unreliable. Of all of these, Solana is one of the better ones, one of the ones that actually followed Bitcoin really well in this cycle. Yeah, let me know what you think and see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.